Seems like she might not. But we're still waiting on one more individual. Once we get that. But if you can just confirm before we get started like that, we can get started as soon as someone else arrives.
Veronica, anybody else that confirmed? Like Yvonne, well, Kathy's in for AG's, with mine for one, that's the alternate. And then we don't have anyone from Hatch. I didn't go. Slim's been gone since March. They had appointed somebody, but coming in.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this regular meeting of the South Central Regional Transit District. Today is April 24th, 2024. It is 1:42 p.m. This session is now in order. If we can please rise for the pledge. Mayor Murillo, if you can lead us. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I can have the roll call, please.
Javier Perea,
Present.
Russell Hernandez,
Present.
Meiji Powie,
Present.
thank you. Yvonne Flores, absent. Manuel Sanchez, absent. Diana Murillo,
Present.
Robert Martinez, absent. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of the agenda minutes for March 27, 2024. At this moment, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda minutes.
So move.
I have a motion on the floor by Mayor Murillo. Is there a second?
Seconded by Hernandez.
The second has been made by Mayor Hernandez. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed say nay. Abstentions. Motion carries unanimously. Excuse me. The minutes for March 27, 2024 have been approved. Item number 5 is public input. Is there any public input at this time? Seeing none. Item number 6, Executive Director's Report.
Good afternoon. David Armijo, Executive Director. Welcome back. It's been a quick month, it seems like. Today, I'm going to, just a quick overview, I'm going to go over these 4 subject areas. I'd like to keep the board of directors up to date on where we are on ridership. I'll do it by route. I had a couple interesting questions yesterday when I was giving my presentation to the Doña County. I stumbled on one question, which I'll try to cover today with the performance. And one of the reasons you'll see is I was asked the question as to total money that we get from the MOU for the year against the ridership, and then divide it out. Well, the reason I stumbled is that that's not correct, because it doesn't include the revenue from the grants. So it'd be total revenue against the ridership numbers. So, but today I'll show you that number, and it's actually advanced pretty well. I'll talk about the grants and projects. I'm not going to get into each one because we're going to have the presentations by our special projects planner, Tim will do that. And but I'm going to give you kind of a highlight, and then I'll talk a little bit about some of the projects that are moving forward. So ridership, we've only got a few days left in April, so I basically just extrapolated the data from the first 3 to 4 weeks and just projected where I think we'll be based on the growth in ridership as a percentage. And so our ridership for April will come in just over 11,000. We're now hitting well above that 10,000 mark most of the time, heading on track for this fiscal year, which started in July. You can see we're already at 96,000, so we'll definitely go beyond the 100,000. Last year, we're just under 90,000. When we do the NTD numbers, which is the numbers from October through September, that's a different dynamic. And so that gives us a little more time there. I'm assuming that those numbers at the current rate could go well above 120,000. So if we did less than 90,000, we're already over 90,000. So the growth path right now is somewhere around 14%, 15%, which is a little down from 19% last year and 36% the year before, but those are unbelievable numbers. So it's going to be very hard to maintain that. And we're not really adding a lot of service. I mean, the only thing we brought back in was the free service beginning in January. That has helped. And then we returned the Sunday service in Sunland Park that we took back during the pandemic because the Sun Metro wasn't providing services at that time. So we would have been bringing people to downtown and they had nowhere to go other than walk through wherever. And that might have been fine, but we didn't have a lot of pushback on that because I think most people felt that those services weren't needed at that time. But now we've got that service back, and that's helping us to grow. It's about 300 rides on that day. So it's really a positive number for us. So I wanted to show some of the statistics. I had Tim work on this. We just completed our NTD submittals. So we're able to now show 2023. So what this shows is if we look at pretty much a 5-year window, our annual operating expenses as we report to the federal government has grown almost doubled in that time period, which is interesting because 2019 was before COVID, and of course, 2023 is well beyond COVID. So we've continued to grow. Most of the transit agencies around the country would have a reverse number. It would actually be down. It wouldn't be up. Passenger trips during that time, you can see the ridership growth as we continue to move forward. 2020 was a blank year. That's where the COVID was. But even then, we didn't drop too much. Vehicle revenue hours, how many service hours per the cost of service? That's really a very good one. Our numbers have come down and up and down and so on, but overall, we're actually much more productive. So that means in a revenue hour service, which has everything from labor, fuel, FICA, all your business expenses and all that, we're actually bringing the numbers down. Now, we're comparing to our neighbors here in Cruces or in El Paso, those numbers would be well over $100 an hour. So we're significantly lower, and that's why when I was asked by the Federal Transit Administrator almost 2 years ago, well, how come you guys don't do privatization? How come you don't have private operators working for you? And I told him we can't afford them. We would be paying not just the cost of the services, but the profit. Now, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't use privatization in the future, and that may be something we'll consider, especially if we start looking at microtransit or other services. But I don't think we do it because we think we're going to find it cheaper. I think we do it because as a business partner, we might be able to lever what that private sector operator who's doing those type of things now can help us. So I think that's a different type of evaluation as we look at that. So I don't think it's one or the other. I think you look at what makes the most sense at the right time. For now, we're doing very well with what we have, but that doesn't mean we can't do even better if we have a private operator doing part of the work. And by the way, almost all of our operators across the state are doing that. They have a lot of private operators doing that. So that's why the question was asked. But for now, we've done well without it. Operating expense between unlinked passenger trip. That was the question yesterday that I kind of dropped. So they were trying to average the number, and they were thinking it was around $9 or $10, little less than $10 an hour. Well, yeah, but it didn't have all the numbers in it. So this is what we report to the federal government. We're at 1826. You can see how high it was, especially going back to COVID, when it was more than double that, or when we first started. And I would look at our chair. You might remember some of the criticisms we had. There was an article in the El Paso Times. Yeah, because we were just getting started. We only had a few routes and a few buses, and we weren't doing that much, and your cost is going to be higher. Anyone who's owned a business know how expensive it was the year they rolled out their business. Their cost infrastructure things got bigger and better as their customer base went up, and they learned to control the cost, or they got past the initial rollout of costs, because we had a lot of rollout costs that we didn't have to pay later on. So this shows that we're on the right track, and we're still doing very, very well. Grants submitted, I just throw this out because I think I've shared this before. We have a lot of grants. We have no peer in this area because the folks in El Paso have the Texas money. You can see down on the 20 near the bottom where it says Texas. So when we have a 5307 urban grant, we have it for Texas and we have it for New Mexico. When we have the 5311, we have that for New Mexico, but the 5310, I didn't even put the second one down. We actually have a 5310 for El Paso Metro. And then we have the CMAQ, which was done over a 3-year period. So we have a lot of grants to manage. And this is probably the thing that is going to be the hardest for us to get control of. And this is one of the ones that's very challenging for our finance officer as he tries to present the third quarter report in a little bit and how we keep track of all this, because there's a lot of resources there. Yes.
Mr. Chair, David, on this slide and the one before where it has the revenues, you know that yesterday at the commission meeting, they had asked you, is there any way you can send these to them? So
Yes, yes. And I love your opinion on this because I was thinking of sending this presentation and highlighting it, but then I thought, nah, it's too much information. Maybe I just send them the slide.
just the points that they asked you.
Yeah, just a slide.
Okay,
We'll send that to them. Thank you. And then last, on projects, we just got the staff working this week. We have plans, we have program money for bus shelters in the coming year through our grants. So what we have to do now is we need to actually go out and do a procurement, get the buses, get the equipment ready to go. We're evaluating the stops right now, so as we shortlist the stops, then we'll come back in and we can start targeting where those shelters could go across the county. I've turned over my file system to Tim on microtransit. I've been working on this for 2 years. Now I have somebody to give it to. We think microtransit's a good way to go. We are going to be working closely with Roadrunner because they're now looking at something like that. And examples are, we've been talking with Roadrunner for 2 years about how do we deal with the East Mesa? The East Mesa is a real challenge for Roadrunner because they have Route 8 that goes up to the high school, goes along the frontage road. There's a handful of stops, but that's it. If you go further up to like Oregon, you're going to be in the county. If you go into the neighborhoods off of Sonoma Ranch, going further over there past where the McDonald's, you go in and out between what's the city, what's the county. Even if you go all the way down to the freeway frontage road and you start looking across, you're constantly in that dynamic. So they're not really wanting to go into there because there's not enough city versus county. On the other hand, for us to spend a lot of money for a whole new route may not be the best way to go. But a microtransit where you have an on-call like a Uber or Lyft, or you have some vehicles, that might make the most sense. But who does it? Is it us or them? We also keep getting questions about why aren't we providing some services to the municipal airport, because they're now starting to do some flights into Albuquerque and elsewhere. Well, it's only a couple of days a week, but there's an awful lot of employees out there. But to get to the city part of the municipal airport, you gotta go through the county. So you can see that this is gonna have a strange thing. Then we look at further south, we look at how do we get up to the industrial park in Santa Teresa? Well, there's businesses up there, and we do have bus services in the area, but we don't have a link. Do we build another bus route to that, or do we maybe establish that as a zone and we do a microtransit to connect them from the buses we have to come in from El Paso, come in from the west side, or those communities and go up there. So that's kind of the challenge I'm giving to Tim to look at and see which makes the most sense. We've been acquiring the small equipment that we'll need, the vans and smaller buses. So we think we're about a year away before we could try to launch something like that. We need to work through the strategic element and have further discussions with the board, and in fact, maybe even get some public comment on this process, because I think this is probably the future of the district. It's something that we're not going to just do for 1 year, but something we're looking at over the next 5 years. But we hope to be able to do that in partnership with Roadrunner, because we think there might be some synergy there as well. And maybe that's another way to also share some of the cost. Sunland Park negotiations, that's ongoing. I'll have more to talk about, I think, next month. We have 4 new vehicles that are coming in this month. We'll have 2 Ford 350s. They're electric vans. They'll be the first electric equipment we come in. Those will be delivered in the next in May. And we're also getting the 2 of the smaller buses that are the front runners. Those are the equipment I mentioned earlier that we think we'll be using when we operate the service going into Cerro Park, beginning in before Memorial Day. That's our target, and we're still working on that project. And then last, of course, will be the charging stations we'll need. So the equipment does come with smaller chargers. These are smaller pieces of equipment, not like a big bus, but they could probably get somewhere of 80, maybe it's 110 miles of range. So we figure to use those initially, maybe even on our Silver Route, which is in Santa Teresa, so that we have room for that, or Sunland Park. Those are short trips. They only travel like 5 miles in each direction. So could get some miles on it, break those in, and then when we're ready to do the microtransit, we'll have those vehicles available. Any questions I may be able to provide? It's a busy month for us. Lots going on. Then we'll take vacation after Memorial Day.
So David, this is Meiji. Explain the issue with the charging stations again. You
Yes.
don't have them yet?
Yeah, the charging stations, they're a little bit of plug and play. The advantage of these, they're smaller than the charging stations we're going to use for the bigger buses. And the reason that's important is that in order for those charging stations to be operational, we're working with the El Paso Electric to upgrade the line. So right now, those charging stations would not plug in well in our current facility, but these would. These also have the ability that it can be plugged in almost anywhere that we have service. I mean, we could even set something up over at Anthony City Hall. We could put some at our own facility or elsewhere. So, but they should be fine. They'll do what we need. Any other questions?
All right.
Thank you.
David, appreciate it. Item number 7, a resolution approving the third quarter financials for fiscal year 2023, 2024.
Good morning, or good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name's Adam Shea. I'm the finance officer for South Central Regional Transit District. According to the agenda, the financials come before the amendment. I typically do the amendment before, but we can switch over. Oh, there you go. Thank you. First of all, as of the March 31st, 2024, our funds in the bank amount to about $62,576.02. As you can see, our reserves are down a bit, and the main reason is because the funding that we had anticipated receiving by now has not yet arrived, unfortunately. However, I can report that our Texas money should be here in the next couple of weeks, thankfully, because we do have some buses coming in and we have bills to pay. But fortunately, this amount should change significantly by the end of the fiscal year so that we have a significant reserve to carry over into the next fiscal year. Our expenditures amount to $2,257,262.79. That amounts to about 72.9% of the budget. As of this time period, being the third quarter, you would imagine seeing about 75%. So we're staying par course with it, which is actually quite good. Our health insurance was up last quarter because of the bill that they sent us at the end of the last fiscal year that everybody got, all the municipals got, and now it's down because it has been paid. So I'm anxious to see the lawsuit, what comes of that. The increases have to do with our capital outlay. That's under projects. That currently amounts to, where am I? There I am, $462,030.06. And this is funds that we have received for buses that we have received and, of course, turned around and paid out. So the capital outlay amounts to the total amount of the purchases, whereas the revenue under the capital, which I will go over shortly, corresponds to about $352,355.44 of that capital outlay. You'll notice that under the percentages, the insurance is at 80.8% as of the end of the quarter. The only reason is because we paid about 75% of that, 80% of the total bill in the second quarter. We will be paying the remainder here before long. Under the projects, you'll notice it as 97.3%, primarily because we are putting in the capital outlay as we receive it. In the quarter that we receive it, only because the capital that we are receiving is sporadic. We're not sure exactly when we're going to be receiving those, so I'm playing that one by ear. I anticipate our receiving of the buses, we'll see that at the end of the quarter, we would be increasing the capital outlay to accommodate what we receive up until that time. Finally, the operating costs is at 81.6%. The only reason that is high is because we had paid off the commercial loan that we had back in first quarter. No, it was second quarter, pardon me, that we had paid off that loan. That's why you see the operating costs at that percentage rate. Under the next slide, it's revenue. We received $1,895,431.26, which amounts to about 60 16.4% of our budget. This is due to our receipt of, or the way that we apply or put through our funding submissions is off kilter until the end of the quarter. We will be making that, we will be rounding that to the proper amounts as of the end of, or as of the April submission. We had received 100% of the membership dues, 60.2% of the 5310, 5311. That's where we have carryover from the previous year for one quarter, as well as the remainder of, in the new funds in the, as of October. 49.8% of the 5307. The only reason that you see this is because we have yet to receive all the funds yet from the Region 6 Texas funds that has been submitted. That's part of what we're going to be receiving in the next couple of weeks. That'll be the operating portion of what was submitted. Finally, under the capital, we have received $544,893.38. That amounts to about 16.5% of the budget. You'll notice that the capital outlay on the far right corner amounts to $431,295.47. That has been what has been received to date. So far, that is the financials for the year to date as of March 31st, 2024. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
So this incorporates the amendment that we should probably vote on first?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I apologize for that.
Do we want to go ahead and
you
address
wanna
the
do-
amendments
I
on
can
item number 8, and then we'll
happily
jump
go
back
over the
to item
men-
7?
Oh, it's up there. Okay.
So item number 8 is a resolution approving the third quarter budget amendment for fiscal year 2023-2024.
Thank you.
Javier, I got a question. What did he say the total capital outlay was? I didn't hear that very clearly.
Total capital outlay was $431,000.
But on this piece of paper I have, it's $436,697.84. Am I on the wrong page?
That is. Oh, I know what I did. Sorry, I got to get to the right page.
Well, maybe I'm on the wrong page.
$431,295.47. That amount, we did have under projects, under the expenditure side, we have $462,030.06. $431,000 is part of that. The remainder part has to do with the other projects that we had, which were the refurbish of the Anthony facility, as well as bus stop refurbishing that we have also been doing throughout the year, as well as on-call services that we have with a contract with SBLB. Does that answer your question?
Not really, because, okay, I must be on the wrong page.
Okay, the page that is the capital, that's the fourth page of the financials.
That says capital appropriations?
Yes. If you look at the far right corner under capital outlay,
Yeah, my total is different. It's 436,697.84.
I know I had some formula problems with what was initially sent.
Well, let me correct it on mine, or hold on. Get a pen.
It's on page 2. Under the quarterly
So it's 431, what is it?
The capital outlay itself is 431,295.47.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Are there any other questions regarding the financials? Okay, I'd like to go over to the next set, which is the budget amendment. Yes, okay. Under the first page are the expenditures that I am requesting changes to. It would be a deduction of, or reduction of $7,865.76 for employee benefits, a reduction of $5,000 for travel and maintenance, an increase of $1,500 for supplies, an increase of $260,735.85 for projects. Again, that it does include capital outlay. An increase of $3,156.80 for contractual services, and a reduction of $10,044.43 for operating costs, amounting to an increase to the expenditure budget of $242,482.46. Under the next slide would be the revenue amendment or portion to, yes, Mr. Armijo.
Let's go back a second. Now,
Okay.
I believe you might want to tee it up this way. Hopefully I'm not wrong, but I think one of the reasons you're doing this is this is our third quarter. Right. We are preparing, especially in the case of the facility for Anthony, we have completed the project. And so we know where the numbers are now. That's it. They're not going to change over the next quarter. And so I think a lot of what you're trying to do here is kind of do a little house cleaning before you get to the fourth quarter. So.
Thank you, Mr. Armijo. It's exactly what it is generally speaking, since this is the end of the quarter, we have a better idea of where our expenditures have been, and we are able to bring everything back up into line. What this will amount to do is it will bring the amount that we have left over at the end of the year down into what we expect it to be. In this case, after making the adjustments, we anticipate having just in the revenue side of things, we anticipate having just $40,000 move from one year to the next. That's not counting what we've got in the bank. To continue, the operating revenue amendment, I'm anticipating or requesting a reduction of $1,435.82. That is, again, house cleaning because of the amount that of the, for instance, the 5310. We know what the actual amount or balance is. So this brings it into line to what it is, what the MOU has. We also, since the bus fares were discontinued, this was an increase of $529.58 brings it into balance as far as what was reported and what we received for fares. Reduction of miscellaneous and other revenue of $5,424.40. I had something entered wrong last quarter, and the last amendment that I did increased that far and, over and above, which was actually needed. So that would, in total, it brings it down to the revised budget of operating revenue to $3,137,216.40. Finally, the last page is the capital. You'll notice that we have increases and decreases throughout this, or for this particular amendment. And the reason is because now that we know where those funds were, exactly how much they were, and what type of project it falls under, this will bring it into line. It basically reduces the capital budget from $3,272,532.82 by $118,738.30, amounting to a total of $3,295,793.42. Please be aware that not all of these funds will be expended this year. We anticipate them being a good portion moving or carrying over into the next fiscal year, but we just don't know exactly what we're going to have accomplished by the end of the fiscal year.
but we hope to know.
Yes, yes.
That is the plan.
Are there any, I know this is a lot of numbers, and I apologize for that. Are there any questions to my request?
So at this moment, I would entertain a motion to approve item number 8.
So move.
Was that Mayor?
Yes.
I have a motion on the floor by Mayor Murillo. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been seconded by Mayor Hernandez. Discussion on item number 8.
It's because I'm cold, sorry.
All right, seeing and hearing none, let me have a roll call vote on this matter, please.
Javier Perea,
Yes.
Russell Hernandez,
Yes.
Meiji Powie,
Yes.
Diana Murillo.
Yes.
Motion passes.
So motion carries unanimously. Now we go back to item number 7.
Thank you.
Which makes it a true statement now.
I guess so.
At this point. All right, at this moment, I would entertain, excuse me, at this moment, I would entertain a motion to approve item number 7.
So move.
I have a motion on the floor made by Mayor Murillo. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been seconded by Mayor Hernandez. Discussion by the board? All right, seeing and hearing none, let me have a roll call vote on the matter, please.
Javier Perea,
Yes.
Russell Hernandez,
Yes.
Meiji Powie,
Yes.
Diana Murillo.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion carries unanimously. Item number 7 has been approved. Item number 9, resolution approving submission of the 2024 NOLO grant.
Oh, sorry. All right, good afternoon, Mayor, Council, Mr. Chair and Council, sorry, used to my old job. So I'm here today to come, to bring you to the LONO grant. The LONO grant, in case you're unfamiliar, is a competitive program that provides funding to state and local governmental authorities for the purchase or lease of zero-emission and low-emission transit buses. SCRTD is requesting the following from the LONO grant program. $2.6 million for 2 35-foot electric Gillig buses for use in Sunland Park. $100,000 for the installation of 2 electric charging stations by ChargePoint. $6,000 for the engineering design of the stations. $12,500 for vehicle delivery costs. $139,930 for workforce development training. So the total amount for the grant requested is $2.9 million, with $2.4 million in federal funds requested and $453,836 in local match required if the grant is awarded to SCRTD. Staff is requesting the 2 electric buses to replace the existing Gillig hybrid buses on the Yellow Line in Sunland Park. These buses, in conjunction with the electric buses expected late this year, will allow SCRTD the ability to run a dedicated morning and afternoon fleet out of Sunland Park, which would reduce maintenance costs and mileage on those buses. The existing hybrids will also then become free for repositioning on other routes within the SCRTD system.
If I may add one more comment. So we applied for this grant program 2 years ago, received $2.5 million. From the time of the grant, which was June of 2022, grant award August 2022, and our expected delivery of the buses, assuming no further delays, that will be December of this year. So essentially 2.5 or 2.5 years, or 32 months from the time that we submitted the grant application until the delivery. This grant program is still very competitive. We're one of the few agencies in the state of New Mexico qualified for this because we did a zero emission grant program. There's only like maybe 3 of us that can actually do this. So the state of New Mexico tends to not get its fair share of money, and these monies are gas monies, or more specifically under the new Biden administration and the bipartisan agreement. This is the bipartisan act that was passed in, I think, November 2021. So we're one of the few that get that done. Now, I also want to mention that We've now learned that it takes a year to 2 years in the post-programming. So we don't anticipate these buses, and you had it on the timeline, we'll see those for a couple of years. So, which is fine. It'll come in at the right time. And the Gillig hybrids have a long life ahead of them. So they've been very popular when we put them out there on the Chaparral turquoise land. They love them. These buses they are electric. They're a smaller part electric. They can drive for about 650 miles on a tank, so they can go 2 days or more. So we actually see these, believe it or not, as buses that could go not just up in the northern area, but they very well could be a bus we put on the Hatch route going north, because of the fact that it has that kind of range and it can operate for a couple of days. So, but they're very, very popular. So we're excited about this opportunity. We're optimistic. There is a qualifier on this one. Is it 25%? Something like that. There's a qualifier on how much has to go to rural.
Yeah,
So-
I don't remember the percentage off the top of my head, but there is a step.
So that's helpful to us. So we might have a chance. Last time it was much higher, but, so anyway, I just wanted to ad-lib that part.
Thank you.
Background.
So staff has proposed the following timeline for implementation of the grant if approved. We expect it to be awarded July of this year and begin procurement in August of 2024. We expect a bus conference where we approve the build-out in February of 2026, and the manufacturing to be complete in September of 2026 with a delivery in October. We would also time the charger installation to happen around the same time of the delivery, so they'd be ready to go. And plan on implementing our workforce development and training program. So I'm drawing a blank on the word here. What we would bring in somebody to help learn, help teach them how to do maintenance on, what was the word we used for the apprenticeship? There we go. So we would begin an apprenticeship in our maintenance department between October 2026 to September 2027. That was a condition of the grant. 5% of the funds had to be awarded for workforce development and training. So we are committed to that. And I'm here if you have any questions.
At this moment, I would entertain a motion to approve item number 9.
So moved.
I have a motion on the floor made by Mayor Murillo. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Mayor Hernandez. Discussion by the board. All right. May I have a roll call vote on the matter, please?
Javier Perea,
Yes.
Russell Hernandez,
Yes.
Meiji Powie,
Yes.
Diana Murillo.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion carries unanimously. Item number 9 has been approved. Item number 10, resolution approving submission of the 2024 5339 bus and bus facilities grant.
Good afternoon again, Mr. Chair, Council. So item 10 is for a sister program that we're applying for. This is the Bus and Bus Facilities Grant. This grant awards funds to replace and rehabilitate existing buses. It also provides funds to buy new ones and to improve or build new facilities related to those needs. So SCRTD is requesting the following from the Low-No Grant Program. 0.65 million for one hybrid Gillig bus for use in Las Cruces, $5,500 for vehicle delivery costs, $139,932 for workforce development training, $870,000 for site acquisition, and I'll show you that site in the next slide, in Las Cruces, and $810,000 for property development of the site in Las Cruces. The total amount for the grant is $2.8 million, with $2.4 million in federal funds requested and $455,261.80 in local match required if the grant is awarded. So this is the proposed site in question. It's if you're familiar with the area in northern Las Cruces, it's kind of behind. There's a Peter Piper Pizza right there that I'm kind of circling. I don't know if y'all can see that very well on the screen. And then it's near, what's the hospital name that's over there, kind of by that? But yeah, so it's off of Highway 70 there. There was an existing transfer center for Roadrunner Transit, if you're familiar with that as well, in the right-of-way of Venus right there on the south side of the property. The current owners are the city of Las Cruces and Doña County. They have a joint ownership on it, best we can tell. And it is, like I said, at the northeast corner of Venus Street and North Rise Drive in Las Cruces. Staff is requesting a bus to supplement and expand service out of Las Cruces. We've currently planned it for Green Route. That's still, to be changed. And the newly proposed facility on Venus, the transfer facility, will allow for better connections for residents of Doña County to other SCRTD routes and to Roadrunner transit routes within town. Cost savings in lower deadhead time and lower downtime would also result from the new facility. So it'd give us somewhere to park overnight without having to drive the buses up from Anthony every day to operate out of Las Cruces. Staff has proposed the following timeline for implementation. We also expect this one to be awarded in July of 2024. Procurement would begin in August of 2024. Project design and procurement for the facilities would begin in November of 2024. Grading and construction of the site would then begin about a year later in October of 2025. The bus conference would be February of 26. We expect the bus to be manufactured by September of 26 and delivered in October of 26. We also expect to finish construction of the facility at the same time. Workforce development and training would run from October 2026 to September of 2027 as well. This grant also has that 5% requirement for workforce development and training. So once again, we are committed to this for this grant. And I'm here if you have any questions.
Mr. Chair,
Madam Mayor.
Tim, you stated is there a match component on this?
Yes, so
I
let me
thought
scroll
you
back
said
up.
no.
I'll get you the exact number right here. $455,261.80 would be what's required as submitted to the feds.
Thank you.
What would we be looking at for the match? Are we looking at the general revenues or are we looking at the state?
So right now, thank you, very good question. And one of the things I'll have to add Adam to update his financials. So a lot of our local match on the capital side has been coming from the state of New Mexico, and we get quite a bit of money through the legislatures. So I just found out about a week ago, that's why it wasn't on my, should have been on my presentation, but we just received for this round, this year, $268,000 from the legislature. That's in addition to the $300,000 already from last year. So that's over $500,000, and ultimately we will need those when the buses come in, or we need it for other things. So since this is 2 years out, we would be looking at receiving the money we need for either of these. We don't expect to get both, to either come from whatever we could get from the legislature in 2025 and what we can get in 2026. In addition to that, we were able through the legislature this year to get I think it's Bill 773 or something like that, or 77, that allows capital funding from the state for infrastructure projects. Now, primarily that's looking at highways, but we'll be submitting through our delegation this year how we could get some money from that as well. So the answer is yes, there's local match. Where do we think we're going to get it? Well, pretty much the way I laid it out, those sources. As I mentioned yesterday, because the question came up also from the commission as to, okay, how much money this year is going to come over for capital? We identified that in the MOU request, but at this point in time, we don't know how much that will be, in part because just yesterday, Tim submitted to the El Paso MPO our funding for urban funds, which I had listed earlier for 2024, which is the money that Congress just passed about a month ago. We now have a full grant amendment. So we put money in there, and that has over $253,000 or something like that for operating. So those operating funds can only be used in the southern part of the district. It can only be used in Chaparral, Anthony, and Sunland Park, and unincorporated areas of Doña County. So we would then split how much that goes and so on. So that would reduce some of the money that we normally use for operations from the county, and that would bring us money for capital. And so I think where I'm ultimately going in this conversation is, as we get better at seeing these numbers, we need a couple years in a multiple year process. Because with the legislature, we can only use the money for 2 years. So the $300,000 from last year, we have 1 more year to go. We actually have carryover funds from the year before of $200,000, And our senator with the green window, my mind is blank today. Anyway, she helped us extend that, although we don't think we'll need that because the buses are coming in next month, we're gonna use those funds. And we have a carryover there, what, 76,000? So we're throwing lots of numbers out to get to that. So the point is, this is a moving target. I found that it's better for us to ask for the grant, and then if we get awarded, we'll go figure out where to get the money. Because in the early years, we didn't do that, and we didn't get the money. And so now it seems in our best interest to go ahead and ask for the funds and see where we go from there.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry for the long answer. There you go.
Did I get a motion on the floor?
No,
I got ahead of myself, right?
Not on this one.
Okay. At this moment, I would entertain a motion to approve item number 10.
So moved.
I have a motion on the floor made by Mayor Hernandez. Is there a second?
second.
Motion has been seconded by Mayor Murillo. Any further discussion on item number 10? All right, seeing and hearing none, let me have a roll call vote of the matter, please.
Javier Perea,
Yes.
Russell Hernandez,
Yes.
Meiji Powie,
Yes.
Diana Murillo.
Yes,
Motion passes.
Motion carries unanimously. Item number 10 has been approved.
Thank you.
Item number 11, a resolution approving the joint powers agreement with the New Mexico Municipal League.
Thank you again, members of the board. Adam Shea, Finance Officer for South Central Regional Transit District. This presentation has to do with the New Mexico Municipal League and a joint powers agreement with them. The reason for this is because this is the organization that we get our health and life and employee benefits through, as well as our property insurance and primary officer insurance. All those particular insurances we get through them. Now, the reason that I'm coming to you now with this is apparently we never signed this agreement back when we first started working with them, which was before my time. And I've looked for the agreement to see if we had it, but apparently not. So, and the reason this looks so good is apparently they have copied it multiple times since 1987. I couldn't say, it's very difficult to read, but in essence and everything, it's us joining with other municipalities that are members of the NMML to work to gain better insurance rates for ourselves and our employees. So this resolution is a request, or this request is for a resolution to be signed, and then the agreement signed by the chairman between us and the New Mexico Municipal League. Are there any questions?
All right, at this moment, I would entertain a motion to approve item number 11.
So moved.
I have a motion on the floor made by Mayor Hernandez. Is there a second?
second.
Motion has been seconded by Mayor Murillo. Any discussion on this item? All right, seeing and hearing none, let me have a roll call vote on the matter, please.
Javier Perea,
Yes.
Russell Hernandez,
Yes.
Meiji Powie,
Yes.
Diana Murillo.
Yes,
Motion passes.
Motion passes unanimously. Item number 11 has been approved. Item number 12, a resolution approving the South Central Regional Transit District Finance Authority loan agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This final item on the agenda has to do with a loan application that we've made with the New Mexico Finance Authority. I don't know if everybody is associate or understands who this organization is, but they do support the municipalities of the state of New Mexico to assist them with loan, making large purchases. In this case, this agreement or this loan application has to do specifically with capital equipment. Now, we have submitted to our current bank, BMO, formerly Bank of the West, for a credit line. In essence, they are looking at it as a maximum of $60,000, and it's still in committee. So we have no idea where it's going to go from there. But I did learn of the New Mexico Finance Authority, and they do support the municipal agencies within the state of New Mexico to make large purchases. What we're doing is, or what we did is submit this application in the amount of $509,907.08. That accommodates one service vehicle and 3 buses. Now, these funds will be paid back because we have already been agreed to receive funds to pay for these vehicles. And the problem is that these vehicles are coming in very shortly. And having the cash on hand to be able to make the payment out of pocket, which the state of New Mexico requires us to do, is to make the payment completely out of pocket and then submit for reimbursement. Being that our reserves are so low, we are requesting a loan. Good thing about it is that we can secure it with the agreement that we have with the state of New Mexico, as well as Region 6 funds from the state of Texas. So this request is, and by the way, the next step is that on May 1st, they're going to be presenting this to their committee to either agree upon, move forward with, what have you. They have requested multiple resources from us. We have provided everything that they needed, and so far, so good. But they do need a resolution from the board approving moving forward with this, and that's what this request is for this resolution in the amount of $509,907.08. Thank you. Is there any questions?
At this moment, I would entertain a motion to approve item number 12.
So moved.
Javier, can I ask a question, please? This is Meiji Powie.
Let me just get the motion on the floor, and then I'll go to questions.
Perfect.
So I have a motion on the floor made by Mayor Hernandez. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Mayor Murillo. Trustee Powie, question?
Okay. So do they charge us interest as well as what interest rate are we going to be paying them back at?
Unfortunately, I do not have that information off right now. And I know that they would present this based on current interest rates, though it's my understanding that it's significantly lower than the average interest rates that we would receive from any commercial finance authority. I just don't have that specific amount yet.
Mr. Chair, isn't it usually like a 1%?
Yeah.
It's very low, yes.
Yeah, my experience in the past has been about 1%, but
Yeah.
I don't know what it is today.
Yeah, and that's the thing, I'm not positive.
Yeah. Trustee Powie?
That's fine.
All right, any other questions? All right, seeing and hearing none, let me have a roll call vote on the matter, please.
Javier Perea,
Yes.
Russell Hernandez,
Yes.
Meiji Powie,
Yes.
Diana Murillo.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion carries unanimously. Item number 12 has been approved. Item number 13, future agenda items or any board comments? All right, seeing none. Being that we have concluded all the work set for this agenda today, if there's no objection, we are adjourned at 2:39 p.m.
A record.
Thank you all.
Thank you.